Welcome to Francis Reads the Bible. Today I'm moving on to Genesis chapter 30, and there's a lot to unpack in Genesis 30. So, Rachel had no children for Jacob, and she was jealous of her sister, and she said to Jacob, "Give me children or I'll die." And Jacob became angry and was like, "I can't take the place of God. He's the one who keeps you from having children." And in verse 3, she says, "Okay, here's my slave Bilhah. Sleep with her so that she can have a child for me. In this way, I can become a mother through her." I've said it before in a different chapter. I think when Sarah gave her slave to Abraham, and my culture, this exists in Igbo culture, in my part of Igbo land. A woman can marry someone, not for her husband, but for herself. And this lady she marries will be charged with the task of bearing children for her. She'll be like an oven. All the children this person is going to bear belongs to the lady that married her. Mhm. So he did what she wanted, and the slave Bilhah gave birth to two sons. The first was Dan, and the second was Naphtali. Dan means favor, and Naphtali means to win a hard fight. I think, yeah. So those two sons belong to Rachel, even though they were birthed by her slave Bilhah. So the slave was not married by Jacob. She was more like a concubine, a mistress, not a wife, because she belongs to her madam, which is Rachel. So she can't marry her madam's husband. So when Leah realized that she had stopped having children, she said to do the same thing her sister did. Even though she'd had four sons, she wasn't satisfied. Like, oh, so Rachel has two now through Bilhah. You know what? I'm going to get more. And she gave her slave Zilpah to Jacob, and she gave birth to Gad and Asher. Gad means lucky, and Asher means happy. Asher is a lovely, very lovely name. Happy, very lovely name. I think it's been unisex. I know a lady who bears Asher. Really lovely name. Since I studied the Bible in Genesis chapter 1, one thing I've learned, and this chapter is retreating, is the importance of names. People named according to situations, and names were very important. So many parents now give names to their children that they do not even know the meanings of, especially if that name is English or you're Nigerian and you don't even know what the name means. It's important to know what your child's name means before you name your child a serpent or a snake. The Hebrew root of Jacob's name means supplanter, assailant, and he lived up to that name when he had to do with his brother, as in he supplanted, he stole and took, used trickery and whatnot to take everything from his brother. What you name a child is important, and they just might live up to their name, you know, like Jacob did before God stepped in and changed his name to Israel. So during the wheat harvest, Reuben, who was Leah's son, or Leah, which however you pronounce it, her son Reuben found mandrakes. Mandrakes are like an aphrodisiac, and according to some people, and it's like it's also used as a fertility drug. It's medicinal as a fertility drug for women to conceive, and it helps like an aphrodisiac. You feel all stimulated and ready for sex and all that. So Reuben brought it to his mother, and Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes," and they negotiated. As in, this family is toxic. in 15, Leah answered her, "Isn't it enough that you have taken away my husband? Now you're even trying to take away my son's mandrakes." But she said, "Please give me some." She didn't say give me all. She didn't go to steal it. She begged for it. It's amazing that Leah, who was the person who stole her younger sister's husband, you know, is the one saying, "You've taken my husband away." Ah, ah. Your father supposedly knew there was a culture they had to get married first. Couldn't you have, within those 7 years of you knowing that this man was working hard to marry your younger sister, married someone else? But no, on the night of the wedding, you agreed with your father. You guys played a fast trick on Jacob, and you laid him on his bed, and he had sex with you. You guys plied him with alcohol. You know, I'm sure during the day he saw Rachel during the ceremony. Then at night he now saw Leah. Really? And you're calling your sister out for stealing a man you stole from her away from you? This family is toxic. As in, like, it's the perfect example of a toxic, problematic family. The family had issues. You can't steal a man or trick him into loving you. So what did she expect? That after doing that to Jacob, he will lose interest in getting married to the person he loved and wanted to marry? Or that because you now have four sons for him and your younger sister has none, he was not going to love her anymore? It's just so sad. You have four biological sons, your sister has none. And she's begging you for some mandrakes. And no, she refused. She said, "Okay, you know what? Now you even try to take away." Ah, gosh. Very toxic family, from Rebecca to her brother Laban, to the dynamics, the way they raised up their children, Esau and Jacob, Leah and Rachel. Very toxic, very problematic family, you know, both of them. And then Rachel had to say, "Okay, if not, give me this your son's mandrakes, you can sleep with Jacob tonight." Then when Jacob came in from the field, like, "Ah, it's my turn with you. I paid for you." With my son's mandrakes. And then God answered Leah's prayer, and she became pregnant again and gave Jacob a fifth son. She named him Issachar, that's reward. And then she now had another son later. And in all this, she now had another son, a sixth son, named it Zebulon. Thinking a gift, now my husband will accept me. Zebulon means accept. But unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. And unfortunately, it trickled down to their children. I don't know what these people were expecting. Ah, as in the way Laban raised his daughters was the same way Rebecca raised her sons. I'm sure Leah was Laban's favorite daughter and child, not Rachel. And the same way Jacob was Rebecca's favorite. It's so sad. How do you have children and none of them love each other? They can't give anything to their sibling for free. They rather take replace their sibling. Jacob stole his brother's birthright and blessings. Leah now stole her younger sister's husband. Then she also had a child, a daughter from him named Dinah. So now Leah had seven. So finally, God remembered Rachel, and He made it possible for her to have children. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son. The Lord has given me another son, taking away my disgrace. She named him Joseph. No, she named him Joseph, saying, "May the Lord give me another son." So she named him Joseph. Praise the Lord. I'm so happy for her. Like, I can't imagine how it must have been. Your husband was stolen from you after 7 years. Then you have to share him with your sister. And she kept having children upon children. Now she has eight sons, six biologically and two from her maid servants. And you have no biological child. Jacob means God will add another, or shall add another, and in the end God did. After, sorry, not Jacob, Joseph. Joseph means God will or shall add another. And after the birth of Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, Okay, let me go so that I can return home. He wanted to live with his wife and his children. I've served you very well. And Laban said to him in 27, let me say this, I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you. Name your wages and I will pay them. And in 29, Jacob said, okay, you know how I have worked for you and how your flocks have prospered under my care. The little you had before I came has grown enormously, and the Lord has blessed you wherever I went. Now it is time for me to look out for my own interests. And I don't blame him. He worked for 14 years, practically free, no payment. He only married Laban's two daughters. It was supposed to be one, but he was strict, and out of love he happily did another 7 years, making 14 years of no money, no whatever. So Laban was like, okay, what shall I pay you? And Jacob said, I don't want any wages. I will continue to take care of your flocks if you agree to this suggestion. Let me go through all your flocks today and take away every black lamb and every spotted or speckled young goat. That is all the wages I want. Just the speckled or spotted ones, that was all he wanted. Or any sheep that is not black. As speckled or spotted for the goats, and then only black sheeps for him. That's what he wanted. And Laban agreed. I'm sure um Jacob knew Laban was going to do something, but that day, because in 35, that day Laban removed all the male goats that had stripes or spots that were speckled, and all the females that were speckled and spotted, or which had white on them. Very dysfunctional family. How can you do this to your nephew? You've never paid him for years. Now he's asked for payment, and the same thing he asked for, you now went and secretly removed them and took them far away so that you have nothing, forgetting that your two daughters and your grandchildren are with this man. Oh, wow. Wow. So when Jacob realized this now, you know, Jacob took care of the rest of Laban's flock. He put his son in charge of them and then went away from Jacob with this flock as far as he could travel in 3 days. And Jacob took care of the rest of Laban's flock. And how do you trick your own nephew? So Jacob decided to do something to make the ones present give him the speckled and spotted goats and the black sheep he wanted. So I don't know if this method works. I'm not a farmer. I do not understand animal husbandry. So he did something with branches, in the way they mated and all that. And then in this way, according to 43, in this way, Jacob became very wealthy. He had many flocks, slaves, camels, and donkeys because the method he used worked, and most of the animals that were born were either streaked, speckled, and spotted. All the animals that were born with this method were either streaked, speckled, and spotted. So his method worked for him, and he had lots of black sheep too. So, well, Jacob was wise. I guess once bitten, twice shy. So his uncle has fooled him before, so he expected this to happen. And I wonder how he learned about this method of animal farming. Maybe, who knows? No, nobody says the Bible didn't say it was revealed to him in a dream or anything, but I guess from years of taking care of his uncle's flock, he discovered this method. When he was diligently doing it for free, he discovered this was possible, even though he wasn't being paid anything for it. And then when his uncle tricked him, he used this method. So that's something about expertise. When you do something for so many years, even though you're not being paid for it, they can never take away that knowledge that's experience from you, no matter what. It's so sad that this family was so dysfunctional, that Laban and his sister Rebecca raised daughters and sons that hated each other and that stole and took things from each other. And this same thing trickled down to the children of Jacob, which we shall see later. There's no miracle that you trick the man into marrying you and you think he's going to love your children the way he will love the children of the lady he loved, and you kept away from him. It's so sad. As always, I'm not a pastor or anything. My name is Frances Okeke. God bless you and goodbye.